Hey, Paul here. I'd like to thank our premier sponsor for this episode, Cisco Systems, building a bridge to possible in their newest platform to power an inclusive future for all. For more information, go to cisco.com. Hi, welcome to Business Brains and the Bottom Line. I'm your host, Paul D'Allegro, and I have a very special guest today. And I think I'm saying that too much about my guests, but I do. All my guests are special. Her name is Karen Rhodes, and she is a chief technologist at Hewlett-Packard Enterprise. Welcome to the show, Karen.
Hey, Paul. Glad to be here.
Thanks for coming on. So I've got some good news for people out there. We are not going to talk about technology today. So I introduced you as the chief technologist, but we kind of want to touch on a little different subject. It's somewhat pandemic related, but you had shared with me the way you're running your time and your life at home right now, which I thought was a little bit interesting because that's a huge topic of discussion. Do you get dressed? Do you not get dressed? What do you do? What do you do to kind of keep yourself motivated? Because I know every day to me feels like Groundhog Day these days. Just get up.
Absolutely.
And that's it. So, how are you running your days, Karen?
Yeah, so I found at the beginning of the pandemic, I was doing what most people were doing. I was waking up, doing the bare minimum to get myself ready, getting in front of the computer, kind of treating it like a normal day. And then one day I put on my heels, which I normally wear heels every day. I put on my heels and they're 5 inches. So I'm 5
foot. You went from 6 feet to 6'5". Is that it?
Yeah, that's kind of what it felt like. I'm 5 foot tall on a proud day. So, okay. I can use all the height I can get to hit the top of a whiteboard normally. So I normally wear heels. But since I wasn't in front of people, I wasn't wearing my heels. One day I decided to pop them on after about 3 weeks. And I was like a weeble wobble. I could barely walk in the blasted things. And I was like, okay, something has got to change here. So from that point forward, I wake up in the morning, I take my shower, I put on my makeup, which is pretty much lipstick and mascara, and that's it. But I get dressed, I put on my dress, I put on my heels, and that right there makes me feel ready for the day. It has changed my mentality on, okay, I'm ready to tackle the day. I'm ready to get my work done. I'm in work mode. I go into the office and into my home office and I start doing work, right? I still use my daily planner, which is my left hand pretty much all the time. And I write things down. I try to keep as normal of a life as I had before. Now, currently I have my kids every other week as well. So I have a 7-year-old son and I have a 3-year-old daughter. That has caused a whole other set of exciting adventures in, Zoom and, my little one, running in and doing all kinds of fun things in the background. And I found a couple of COVID hacks that I did in their first semester at home. I was literally keeping the kids up until midnight. And then I was putting them to bed at like midnight, and then they would wake up at about 11 o'clock in the day. And that way we could do virtual school. I could get all my work done early in the morning, all my calls done early in the morning, and then my kids could hop on and my son could do his school at any time. Well, this semester, they ended up having Zoom calls all the time. So that COVID hack doesn't work anymore.
Oh, God.
Because he has to be in front of a screen at 7:30 in the morning. So he actually has to go to bed at a normal time, wake up at a normal time. But I found that I'll do work in chunks. I'll be, a worker for a while, doing calls or emails, and then I'll be mama. And I'll go make sure that they're set. Make sure that he's reset in his school, make sure that my daughter is reset in whatever craft or whatever I have her doing, and then kind of go back to being an employee, right?
Yeah.
But it's an interleaving of those things that everybody's been very understanding. Everybody has their kids or dogs or whatever in the background. And it's been a great opening of everybody's personal life to their coworkers, to their customers. Frankly, it's brought a humanity that we didn't have before, which is really nice.
Yeah, I think you're raising a good point, because in the old days, before COVID, would get on calls, God forbid your dog started barking. You'd be embarrassed. Now it's like, it's just my dog, or that's my 3-year-old running behind me. It's kind of expected now.
It is. And I think that's good, because it makes people realize that you are a full human. You're not an automaton. You're not just here to work and make money, right?
Right.
You're here to work and make money so you can pay the bills so that the kiddo can, have clothes or, things like that. But it is something that I think we needed in this country because we were all becoming too much of a workaholic. I know I am definitely guilty of that. It's made us become more introspective on what are the things that we really want in our days and what are the things that we shouldn't really be focusing on anymore. What are the things that need to go away? And some of those
that's what,
are work.
It's funny. You said, on my very first podcast, I talked about that. Some of the changes that have happened to me. Like I've started to realize, what's important, right? You've got your family. And so we'll talk about some of the things later on about the activities that we've created for ourselves to make things work in our lives, so it really did make you think about what's important. At least it did
does.
for me.
It does. And it makes you think about the people that are important, right?
Yeah.
I did virtual school because I didn't want my mother exposed to COVID. Well, she ended up getting COVID anyways from another location, but it makes you look at every interaction that you have with another human is much more personable than it was before. Before we were interacting with 100 people or 200 people in a day. Now, if you're only interacting with 3, 10, something like that, it's a much more one-to-one connection that we have.
It's funny. I go to the gym pretty much every morning, and that's the only human interaction I have all day. So I'm like, I tell these people, you're like, I should pay you like a psychology fee or something, because I'm actually talking to a human, and then I come home and here I am at my desk and this is me for the next 8 hours or 10 hours or whatever it is,
Yeah, I go to my cigar lounge. So I smoke cigars and I go to a cigar lounge, and we're all in various rooms. Some rooms will have 2 or 3 people in, but they're massively spread out and great air, aeration and airflow and everything. But yeah, I think we're all feeling like any human interactions at becoming almost a therapy session.
Yeah.
Of, okay, how are you coping? What are you doing that works or doesn't work?
Yeah, it showed us that we need humans in our lives. Now we've got our families, like you said, you've got your kids, and I've got my wife and daughters, and they're around. And but you need more than that. You need human interaction, I think.
We're all having that cabin fever type feel, and the more we get to the point where we don't feel we have an option to do other things, the more we kind of spiral down. And we have good days, and some people are really productive. You're going and working out. I got my CISSP this past month, and those things are wonderful. But then we also have our bad days, and we need to embrace those, and not be afraid or ashamed of spending the day on the couch eating Cheetos with the chopsticks, right? So you don't get your fingers cheesy.
Yeah,
there's time and place for both, and that's a good thing. It's okay not to be okay.
Right. Yeah.
On some days.
But some people can't recognize it though. Like if I'm a little bit down one day, I recognize it and I say, okay, it's just having one of those days where maybe a few things didn't go well, and you kind of, sitting at home, ho hum. For me, activity is what gets me out of that. So going to the gym, cutting the grass, doing just mobility, getting the blood. So again, that's for me. I don't know what type of things do you do to get yourself out of that funk?
I embrace the pity party. I just I go whole hog. I'm like, okay, I'm having a funk. I've been having a funk for a couple of days. You know what? I'm going to
break out the scotch.
But yeah, the scotch or the red wine, a couple of cigars, and the Cheetos or whatever it happens to be, have some, snack foods, binge watch whatever I want to watch. It usually ends up being odd Chinese drama. But just embrace the funk. And hug your demons, right? Is what I jokingly say. Go ahead and hug that demon. Embrace that you need to have that downtime. Have it unapologetically. Have it. And at the end of the day, you're like, okay, I've had enough red wine for the week. I've had enough, Cheetos for probably a month, and I'm sick of this Chinese drama. So, okay, let's go ahead and refocus and get back to what we were supposed to be doing. But that's what I do. Everybody deals with it differently, though. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, I know some people, you had said you got one of your certifications. I know that's a big one now. A lot of people going, taking. I know I've done a ton of certifications for myself and for my company just because you're home. I mean, you can now.
Absolutely, and that's great. There's a ton of certifications that are available now for free. That organizations have made that training available. They've made it free, and I definitely encourage anybody who just has a little bit more free time, or they're going through a job change or a layoff or anything like that. Look at what the different vendors and the different certification paths are out there that you think would be good for your career, and go and take it. There is, language skills. Obviously, I'm a proponent of being a multilingual person. So there's tons of linguistic apps that are out there that are at a great price now, darn near free.
Yeah. Do you speak any other languages?
Mandarin is my primary language. I also speak a little bit of Japanese, and I can get by in Spanish.
Oh, wow. Well, I know you're one of the smartest technical people I know. Now I'm really impressed you speak multiple languages.
Well, it's a puzzle, and I really enjoy puzzles, and I go for things that are intriguing to me, right?
Yeah.
And those languages definitely intrigue me. Russian also did, but my Russian is down to about 4 words, and that's about all I remember of Russian.
I speak a little Italian, having grown up in an Italian house, but I studied it for a lot of years, and I was vice president of the Italian club in college, and I have Rosetta Stone too, so I kind of play with that to keep fresh with it. But I can get by. Like my wife tells people I'm fluent in Italian, and I'm saying, well, I'm conversational. There's a difference.
Yeah.
I'm not going to talk about nuclear physics in Italian. I can tell you that, but I can ask someone, how are you? Can you pass the bread, please?
Absolutely. I can do that in my languages. Mandarin's the current one that I can do most things that I need to do. But when it comes to technical conversations, things like that, I have a very difficult time hearing Mandarin correctly. So I just need to have more practice with that. So that's probably going to be one of my 2021 goals, is listening to more Mandarin. I try to do movies and things like that in Mandarin and be in another room, so I'm not just sitting there staring at the subtitles. But it's a rough language. I'm not going to sugarcoat that one.
There's a ton of movies on Netflix right now that are in subtitles that are in foreign languages. I just watched a few that were Italian. One called The Trial, by the way, very good one. You should watch that. And I found myself, it was a 7-episode series. And the first episode was going a little bit too fast for my ear. But by the 7th episode, I really didn't even need the subtitles.
Yeah.
Right. Because I could actually understand the Italian. It started to slow down for me, because you don't use it every day. You get a little bit rusty, but
definitely, if you don't use it, you do lose it. Absolutely, with languages.
Yeah. So you touched on something. I think a lot of people are realizing the opportunity to change some of the relationships in your life. Can you expand on that one a little bit? Like maybe, people that you kind of took for granted, or maybe you had a little tiff with in years past that are important to you, but you kind of let stuff get in the way. What are your thoughts on that one?
Yeah, absolutely. So, at the beginning of right before COVID, I actually got divorced.
Okay.
So that was horrible timing, but I was like, okay, I'll make new friends. I'll get out and I'll get to experience new things that I enjoy. And I've met a lot of people since I've been single, and some of them, this is not going to work out, but they've become amazing friends.
Yeah.
And it's kind of bizarre how people that literally I have never met in real life, I may text with every day and go, hey, how you doing today? And that person is actually a part of my life. Right. And then there's people that have been in my life for years and years that I've reconnected with that I didn't realize that we had so much in common over the years. Right. Family and friends and just everybody. There's been things that have brought us together as a family, and very brought up family stories. Arecibo just collapsing. That is actually part of my family, because Arecibo was, the panels were redesigned by my grandfather in the 80s. Him and my grandmother lived on the rim, and he actually redesigned all the panels that were in Arecibo. And whenever it went to calibration, none of the guys wanted to climb Arecibo to do the calibration. So my grandmother, come to find out, actually climbed Arecibo and did the first calibration on Arecibo after the panels were replaced. So, those type in-depth, we were watching it collapse as a family, and just, we were heartbroken, but that it was collapsing. But it was also a bonding experience of, let's bring up all these stories that happened in the 80s whenever he did that work. He passed away last year, and I'm kind of glad that he did, because he didn't see, his main achievement end up, going back to the dirt. But those type connections, we wouldn't have had time in our lives. We wouldn't have made time to properly pause and give that the due time it deserves. And I'm glad for that. I'm glad that we're getting to connect with family and friends in a more important and deeper way. So
yeah, I definitely find myself on the phone a lot more, just like calling people, because again, you're home a lot, and
I get more worried about people now than I did before. I'm not exactly a fluffy person. I'm more on the tech side, right? So I'm not exactly on that empathic level, but I do find myself going, oh, well, I haven't heard from so-and-so in a while. Let me text them and make sure that they're okay. How are you feeling today? Okay, you're in kind of a funk. Let me send you something. Whether it's just a happy, goofy cat picture or whatever, it happens to be, or, go ahead and order something for somebody and have it show up on their doorstep. All of those things we need, humans, to interact and kind of bring us out of that funk sometimes. And some people need another person to help them out of that funk. So being concerned about others is
and think
really
about
important.
it. What you may consider trivial is not trivial to someone else. Like you say, sending some a little, a little note just saying, hey, checking in on you, how you doing? That may mean the world to that person, and we take it for granted sometimes.
Yeah. And, in a normal time, I would be nobody to that person, or they would be, just another contact for me in my day. But nowadays, that may be the deepest conversation that we have of that day. Maybe somebody that it just would have been a passing, hi, how you doing, type of a conversation. So I really appreciate the relationships that we're building during this time a lot more than I've taken for granted in the past.
So to kind of pivot here a little bit, I know I've done some things differently in my household. Like, for instance, during the beginning of the pandemic, when my daughter was home from college, we were working out in the garage together. It was kind of fun, and I would always let work around her schedule. And we all started picking a cooking night where we would just some random recipe, just, okay, you're on tonight. You pick the recipe, cook it. And we were just opening up cookbooks, and I became the baker in the house. So I started baking Italian bread and doing homemade pizza. I mean, making the dough, making the sauce. I take that back. My wife would make the sauce, and I would make them. And so it became a fun type of diversion versus what do we have for dinner tonight? A salad.
Whatever you can throw in.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we're doing leftovers again for the sixth time this week,
Right.
And so it became fun, and we're still doing it now. And now we've kind of embraced it, and it's fun. So what are some of the things you're doing differently?
Yeah, so cooking has been huge. I absolutely agree with you on that. So I've got friends that are big eaters, and I've got friends that are good at cooking. So we end up having kind of, cooking, eating days kind of designated throughout the month. And on those days, it's okay, whoever is missing whatever food, because we used to travel all the time.
Yeah.
And we would be able to eat such a wide variety of foods. And that was the wonderful thing about traveling. It made traveling worth it, was getting to eat the food that is in the different areas. I've had pho, homemade pho. We've done egg rolls.
That's Korean,
a Vietnamese soup.
Vietnamese, yeah.
Yep. We've done egg rolls, like multi-layer cheesecakes. I made enough rolls for a battalion, duck breasts, like crazy stuff.
Yeah.
This week, I frankly want Chicago dogs. I am missing Chicago dogs, something fierce. So literally this week, it's just Chicago dogs and all the fixins that go with it. Right.
Nice.
So it ends up being, well, what are you craving? You know what? We don't have to necessarily go to Chicago for a Chicago dog. Let's figure out, okay, this is a recipe that looks like it's for this, and here's a side that looks like it goes with that. And, all of our friends, kind of get together and figure out what we're going to eat. And then we sit down and become pigs for one meal a week. And
now, do you do this virtually or together?
Actually, we do get together physically. So there's only usually 3 to 5 people at a time. that get together, and we'll do this every other week.
Nice.
So it's, this is literally the physical interaction that the 5 of us get.
Yeah,
and
we have
different households of usually single people, or, one couple, and they all end up over at my house, and, we pretty much gorge out.
Yeah.
But
we have a couple of friends we do that with who, like Saturday night, we went over a friend's house for the husband and wife, and it was nice. And their kids were around. So we had like 6, 8 of us just hung around. It was fun. Just, great people and great company, and had a few drinks. I think I drank a little bit too much Saturday night, Karen, a little bit too much scotch, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. There's definitely plenty of wine. I've been ordering wine by the case instead of by the bottle now. So,
I'm going to one up you on that. I order 2 cases at a time now.
Yeah.
If you run out of the first case, you shift right to the second case.
Yeah. Right before, I guess it was September, was whenever I decided to restock, and I ended up getting 6 cases of different wines. Yeah.
And
so
if I remember correctly, Karen,
they're fine.
You live in Arkansas, right?
I do. I live in Arkansas.
Right. I'm thinking Dallas, right? Because that's how I know you.
Exactly.
And I've forgotten you live in Arkansas. What part of Arkansas?
Right by the Missouri border.
So you live up by
near Bentonville.
Bentonville, where Walmart is, right? And that's one of your customers, actually, right?
It is. It is. Yep.
Cool.
So they have all kinds of exciting things going on, and that's fun.
Yeah.
It's fun to see some of the things that they're doing. So they're doing, of course, a lot of the curbside pickup. They're doing things like drive-in movies, which is pretty cool.
Wow.
They turn their parking lots into drive-in movies so that people can come in and watch movies in the evening whenever they were closed down in the nights. They used to be 24/7. Now they're not. So there's some really neat things that they've done. And it's nice to see that locally.
Nice.
Yeah.
So why Arkansas?
Why Arkansas? I literally could live anywhere in the United States I wanted to. I just needed to be within an hour of an airport. And this was before I called on Walmart. I was calling on, whenever me and you knew each other back then, I was calling on state local education. So a lot of the state government. And I looked at the best school ratings, the best quality of life. There's amazing biking and hiking trails here. And I came and visited, and it was just phenomenal. The people are friendly.
It's beautiful up there by the Ozarks, right?
Yeah, it's beautiful. The people are friendly, but it's also a very international feel because Walmart is here, Tyson is here, JB Hunt is here. A lot of vendors live here. So you have an international culture in a small hometown type feel. So every culture is accepted. You hear every language. You hear, you see plays that come off of Broadway.
Yeah.
They come here. You see concerts, all the good things of a big city, but in a small town.
Yeah.
So it had all the mix I wanted.
Walmart requires, if you're going to do business with them, that you have to have an office in Bentonville. Is that accurate information?
It has been in the past. We'll see what happens in the future. It's been pretty much a salesperson and an engineer need to be here, so must be present to win type thing. And it's part of really invigorating the local community. What was happening before is people would sell to Walmart. They would fly in, sell, and then they would go back to their hometown. And Walmart decided, you know what, if you're going to make money from us, we want you spending that here. We want you being here. We want you investing in our schools and in our infrastructure. And it's really changed Northwest Arkansas in the last 10 years. If you haven't been here in 10 years, come here and you will be absolutely flabbergasted. Every day it's different. It's amazing.
I probably haven't been there in 10 years. It's probably at least, I'd say.
I think that we're going to see a lot of people coming here. I think this is going to continue to be a boom town. It's already a boom town as it is because of just the quality of life and cost of living is so low. Quality of life is so high. But I think we're going to see that dynamic change in this country where people were living in Silicon Valley because they had to be. They needed to be by that startup. They needed to be able to drive into work to a lab. HPE just changed their office being in California to being in Texas. Exactly. They moved it to Houston. I think we're going to see people working remotely as experts from anywhere in the world. So they're going to pick where they want to live, where they want to have their life. And they're going to choose their employer based on, can I stay living where I want to live? Or are you going to force me to pick up and move to somewhere else that may be more expensive or less reliable schools, whatever it happens to be that's important to that person. Yeah. I see quality of life is going to become much more important than it has been in the past in the U.S.
Yeah, completely agree. And I talked about this before in one of my previous podcasts. I think the one industry that's going to take a beating is commercial real estate, especially like
Absolutely.
the New Yorks and the Chicagos, and maybe even Dallas to some degree, where you're a company that has 20 floors in a commercial building, and you say to yourself, okay, wait a second, half my employees work at home now, and we're actually more productive. Why do I need this? Now, the caveat to that is, and my brother mentioned this to me, the one thing young people are going to miss is that tribal knowledge and knowledge transfer of like being with someone by the water cooler, the old cliche. That's the group I feel a little bit bad for, because you and I have been through the business world for a long time, and I don't need a mentor. I don't need, you don't either. We understand business and how to do our jobs, but young people sometimes need that. And that's the one thing I'm a little concerned about.
I see it in a different way. I look at, we have people that come into my organization through the college new hire program, right? They spend a year in a training class, and then after that, they get pumped up with somebody in the field as a mentor. But even after they've gotten their legs underneath them, years later, they still have those mentors, and we're still touching back with them and making sure that they're taken care of. And, hey, how are you doing today? They may be far in their career, and they still are being mentored, right? So I don't think that we're going to have as much of a problem with that in organizations that are used to working from home, because HPE's been doing the work from home thing for 10 years now. It didn't cause a problem, but we had to institute that mentorship program to make sure.
Now, someone just went silent.
Yep, I'm back.
Okay.
So I think we need to continue that mentorship programs that are being done virtually, as well as we were doing them in person. But it's going to have to be matching the personality of the mentee and the mentor together. And I think we have more diversity because you have everybody to choose from, not just the people in your office to choose from. So I think that's where we're going to see the future for younger people.
You could be right there. But that's HPE though, big company with a lot, fair amount of resources. I mean, what happens to the company that's, 15, 20 people large, 50 people, something very small, where you depend on a lot of that tribal knowledge and to really help the younger kids. That's more of the ones I'm worried about, but we'll see. I mean, I don't have all the answers, but we'll see how this whole thing shakes out.
I see a lot of people doing happy hours where after work hours or towards the end of the work day, on a Friday evening or whatever, Friday noon type thing, they'll play board games or they'll play card games. I'm a big board game fan, so obviously I'm prone towards that one. But they'll end up getting to know each other. Get to know who they have in their team. Who is the most likely to have your car keyed, right? Goofy things like that, and then the entire team votes on it, and then you get to see, okay, this is the person everybody thinks is probably the biggest jerk or whatever. And it brings out, I think, more of that personality that we kind of hid in the corporate world than we did before. But it also allows you to figure out, okay, maybe that person is somebody that they seem kind of harsh or they seem like a jerk. They're doing that because that's actually what they need to do, right?
Yeah.
And you look at that and go, okay, there's actually something I need to learn from that person because maybe I am a little bit too soft on this or that, right? I think people are going to pick their mentors instead of being assigned mentors as much. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. And that kind of happens by osmosis too.
It kind of does.
In your career, I look back at my career and there's several people that I've looked to and I've had some younger people say to me that I've been a mentor to them, and it wasn't intentional. It was just kind of the way it happened, right? They call me for advice, I give it, and they appreciate it, and they look to me as a mentor. So
absolutely,
it works both ways.
I think we have mentors throughout our careers, whether we call them, official mentors or whether they're just people that we trust and respect, and we look at them and say, hey, can you look at this and give me your feedback? What do you think about this? Is this actually on point, or is this going off in crazy land? And you have those handful of trusted advisors, right? Yeah. That each of us has gained throughout the years, and we are that for other people as well. that naturally evolves.
So any other pearls of wisdom for the listeners out there, Karen? I mean, the one thing that really the direction I saw things going were, I think there was a lot of people on LinkedIn that were saying, hey, I'm not dressing up anymore. You see a lot of women were posting pictures of themselves with no makeup on and saying, hey, I don't need to do some. You've kind of chosen to go the other direction, which is
chose the other direction, but I chose the other direction for how it made me feel,
right?
Not how it made anybody else feel.
Right.
Literally, if I have no Zoom calls all day long, I still look the same as if I had Zoom calls. So it doesn't matter. It's that I wake up. There was a lady, it's Fly Lady. It's a thing about cleaning your house. And one of her things is get dressed all the way to shoes that are lace-up shoes. So that if you need to take out the trash, you pick up the trash, you walk out the door. There's nothing that's stopping you. There's no hindrance towards achieving whatever you need to do because you're already ready to go, right? You need to go to the grocery store, you already got your shoes on, grab your keys, go, right? That mentality of get up, be ready, and okay, the day is kind of fine. Day's great. Okay, awesome. But either way, you're ready to embrace the day. You're not, okay, well, I kind of smell. I haven't taken a shower in 3 days. I need to go ahead and take a shower before I can go to the grocery store. And,
hey, I'm Italian. I shower once a week, whether I need it or not.
There you go. Go for New England type world. But there's a lot of guys that, I get on Zoom and I'm like, wow, I can smell you through the phone. I mean, this has got some funk. And, I know that they don't feel good about themselves because whenever they speak up, they are in a funk. And I'm like, dude, get up, get going, take a shower.
Yeah. I will say
put on a new shirt, whatever.
Yeah. I will say there is the other extreme where you see people, like you said, get on and like, you can tell they're wearing the same clothes they got up out of bed with because it's all wrinkled, unshaved. I try to shave if I know I have a call.
Yeah. Okay.
Right now I have no hair in my head, so I shave my head too. I wear the hat for the podcast purposes, but I try to be clean shaven. I'm not saying 100% of the time, but I try to look presentable.
I shave my legs. I mean, I'm wearing a dress all the time. I shave my legs, and people are like, "Really?
So
you're shaving your legs?
You don't show off your legs on your Zoom calls?"
No, my legs are never on my Zoom calls, but I shave my legs. So it's just that makes me feel ready for the day.
Yeah.
Whatever makes you ready for the day, do it. If it's waking up and meditating, if it's going for a walk, there's a guy 3 doors down, phenomenal guy, retiree. Dude books it around the neighborhood, just walking like a beast every single day. I'm so energized whenever I see him. I'm like, he has his routine. He knows that is what gets him going. That is what he has to do. I can set my clock by that guy.
Yeah.
And it's just, that is what his routine is. And that is what gets him motivated. And you can see him kind of, getting up and getting going, and you can feel the creaking that he's probably feeling, right? You can see it in his face that I'm not really liking this walk today because it's cold and dreary and everything like that. But by the time that he finishes and heads back to the house, you can see that his aura or whatever, he just looks so much more energized around life. And that's the mentality that I try to look at it, is whatever gets you going in the morning. I mean, I'm playing music, I'm playing audio books. I've had a really hard time getting into books though. I'm a huge bibliophile. I read like mad normally. Haven't been able to get into books. So I read my kids' storytime books. I've started making those longer books so that I'm reading longer books, but they're still kiddo books. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Audible has been wonderful. Libby is a great thing for audiobooks as well. But jamming out to some positive, upbeat music, playing stuff that you would never play, and just going, never seen this before. Let's see what, a cappella trombone is or whatever, I mean, just something off the wall. Do it. And it's amazing how much the sounds can change your mentality whenever you're.
Well, I've got a good one for you, Karen, that you should listen to. There's a podcast out there called Business Brains, and the bottom line, they got this really cool host, Paul Delegro, if you've heard of him.
Just going to go ahead and plug yourself on that one.
There you go. Listen to him. It's sure to make your day.
That was such an easy segue on that one.
Yeah, you set me up on that one. I mean, it was.
And caffeine, by the way. Yeah. We talked about this a little bit before. I've got like 12 different types of coffee.
Oh my God.
At the house, and I wake up in the morning, and it's like I walk into a coffee bar. Right? I'm like, oh, what kind of coffee am I going to have this morning? I feel like it's just those little treats that you set up for yourself throughout the day, whether it's coffee or, chocolate or fruit or whatever, little treat is going to make you go, oh, I've got to do this, and then I can have that piece of chocolate or whatever. If that is what gets you up and makes you throw a load of laundry in, do it.
Yeah, I'm a big coffee guy. I probably have half a dozen cups a day at least.
This is espresso that I'm drinking.
When I get up in the morning, I'm like this. I walk right to the Keurig and get my first cup in there.
Yeah, I do about a pot of coffee a day, or half a pot of espresso, and full pot of espresso.
You like the high octane stuff then?
Yeah. I've got to have some caffeine in the world. That is a beautiful thing. And if there's a coffee shortage and a tea shortage, I'm pretty hosed at that point. But hopefully that doesn't happen. Knock on fake wood. But yeah, whatever you have to do to motivate yourself. My cigars, my coffee, my music.
Simple pleasures.
Putting on the clothes, getting, not smelling like you've got a funk going on to you. Do it.
Yeah.
Do whatever makes you happy at this point. And it's going to be the little things.
As a general rule, I think you've got to change it up a little bit. You got to do things to make, instead of just sitting down at your desk all day and doing the same thing every day. You need variety.
That's brutal.
Yeah, you need to get up. Sometimes I'll work out at lunch. Just if I don't get a chance in the morning, I'll go break up the day and I'll work out at like 11:30 to 12:30, 1 o'clock, just to get, again, today, it's a nice change. Get you going, get your blood flowing.
Well, today I wasn't feeling it. I was like, man, I'm just dragging. I took a nap. Yeah. I mean, it doesn't have to be go out and do awesome. It can be curl up and take a nap. I mean, embrace it. Embrace the funk. Don't try to
that's going to be
power through it all the time.
So that's going to be the motto coming out of this podcast is embrace the funk. I think that may be the title for this one.
Yeah, there's another word for it, but yeah, I think that's the PG version.
Yeah, exactly. So, well, hey, Karen, I appreciate you sharing all your pearls of wisdoms. I think you've shed some light on some interesting ways to pass the time here at home and make life a little bit better for both you and your family and your friends.
Well, as I've been telling everybody, this is the best pandemic of my life, and I hope it is for you too.
Well, it's the only one, so I don't think we have a choice, right?
Exactly.
Well, hey, Karen, thanks again, and really appreciate your time.
Always great chatting with you, Paul.
And that's a wrap for Business Brains and the Bottom Line. Until next time.